In this Star Wars Battlefront 2 news update video, I will be sharing with you a plan for Battlefront 3 from an ex-developer who has also revealed a bunch of behind-the-scenes details. Plus, I have some inside information, some exclusive details on the player count, which is just getting bigger and bigger as people are calling for Battlefront 3. Before we do dive into all of today's news though, make sure you do subscribe to this channel so you won't miss any future Star Wars Battlefront 2 videos. So, as I have mentioned in my previous videos, Battlefront 2's popularity is skyrocketing right now, and it's trending, it's going viral, not just in the game but also across social media, so much so that brands are basically bandwagoning on its trendiness to gain followers, such as Firefox and random other brands, which are helping spread the word but also are just leeching off this trend and don't actually care about us. That said, the actor who plays Willamon in Andor said this on his Instagram story last night: "Star Wars got to give us Battlefront 3 ASAP." After such a big response from the community, he went on to say he grew up with Battlefront 2 and has been a veteran since day one, and he hopes Battlefront 3 happens, and he even showed how many hours he has in the game, which is just under 500. Let's now dive into some new details about the game's player count. So as you'd expect, it did rise over the course of the weekend because people don't have work or school. However, it kept that momentum, and Monday actually was higher than both Saturday and Sunday. And then Tuesday came around, and it got even bigger. The game received 164,000 players at any given time concurrently at its highest peak, the most since December 2020, so Christmas, the year that the game stopped receiving content. That's 164,000 players covering all three platforms: Xbox, PC, and PlayStation. This information is coming from a trustworthy source that has inside information into the actual player counts from EA servers. I made a tweet about this, and some people within the community on Twitter and Reddit claim that I am lying and that I have no credibility. Well, a former DICE developer has sort of backed me up on this. Matt, who was a producer during the live service of Battlefront 2, said this: "The number is plausible. The size is also about right, because we hit those numbers during the Celebration Edition, and Episode 9 made us surpass Battlefield in many KPIs, key performance indicators. I mostly remember our weekly unique players, but 166,000 daily is not impossible with the current hype market." That's coming from a former DICE developer who worked throughout the live service. It's not just me reporting these numbers either, it is also coming from my friend Battlefront Updates, who you probably know as well. And the stats don't stop there, they just keep getting crazier. So Tuesday saw over a 100% increase over Monday in terms of players, and then I have just literally received the player count for Wednesday, the peak player count, and it was 176,000. That's 10,000 more than the previous day. It's still going up. It is truly remarkable that this game is approaching 200,000 peak concurrent players across all platforms 5 years after its last content update, and on a weekday. It's not just doing well in terms of player count, it's doing well in terms of sales. Yesterday, it was the third most purchased game on the PS4 store. Seriously. Yes, of course, it is a PS4 game, so it's only competing with other PS4 games which are severely lacking in popularity compared to PS5 titles now, but still, it's pretty amazing for a game that has not had any updates in 5 years to be up so far in this chart. It was also the 29th most played game on Xbox, and in terms of purchasers, so the top most paid games, it came in 42nd. Let's now take a look at some very insightful new details about Battlefront 2's live service development from one of the former developers at DICE. If you have watched my videos before, you probably know of Matt, who was the former live producer on Battlefront 2 during its live service. He has revealed a ton of secrets about the game, including what sort of content they were planning and working on. I have a bunch of videos going over what he said, so check those out after you've watched this video. But let's take a look at what he has said recently, including the last few days. He starts off by saying that he actually would return to DICE if they rebuilt the Battlefront team, but he doesn't see any want from EA or anyone else to actually do this, unless if Disney purchases EA. For those unaware, pretty much everyone from the Battlefront team has gone. The team was disbanded. He said that they are spread all over Sweden and abroad. Not just everyone got up and moved to Embark, a lot of the live team actually didn't. They went to other teams, and Dennis, the guy that led the franchise, created his own studio, which many of them went to work for, and they're still working at. In terms of how many Battlefront developers are still left at DICE that are working on Battlefield 6 or whatever it will be called, Matt says from what he knows there are about 3 people left, and I know those 3, plus Ben, who was our former community manager, who is now a single-player producer on the next Battlefield. Speaking of Ben, he actually dropped into the Battlefront Discord server for the first time in a long time to send a message saying he misses me, which was nice of him to do, and I certainly miss Ben and all of his work and the entire team's work. What they did for the community was just unreal over those 2 short years. Mats was actually asked, could DICE still pull off an amazing Battlefront 3 with the team they have left, and he says that he's skeptical. The live service team ended up approaching the game very differently from the original developers, the launch version of Battlefront 2. If they went about it the same way as before, they will not get how we brought the game back from the abyss, which is something to think about. He continues, so if their goal was, let's learn everything from their work, perhaps. If they are new game, Battlefield, but in Star Wars outfits, then it won't turn out well. A post was made to the Battlefront subreddit a few days ago, which got a bit of traction, and it talked about various ideas of how to make a Battlefront 3 and do live service and things like that, such as in-game currency and all sorts of things. Mats actually says that knowing what he knows about the cost of running a Battlefront live service game and just how much a skin actually costs to make, all the popular ideas in this post and thread are just not workable. He goes on to say that the whole system of how to play something is problematic, so paying for a set skin and then playing lots of games where you can't use it is very difficult. If Battlefront 3 was to try these options, it would be a very different game. Focus on the smaller modes as opposed to the bigger ones, which ultimately at its core is Battlefront. We want those large-scale modes. The smaller modes are just add-ons, but it isn't the core Battlefront experience. It's not Battlefront's DNA. His personal take is that proper DLC packs with characters, so a map, 3 to 4 skin variations, music and a handful of customizations, but you would need a game where this made sense, and in Battlefront 2015, it was there, and as much as people detested the Season Pass model that game had, a lot of us actually really liked it, and it did quite well. Though I think with the game having a lot less content at launch made people not so happy about the Season Pass model. If it had a lot more at launch, then I think people would have been happy with that Season Pass model, and that Season Pass model was phenomenal for 2016. It just did so much in that year, and it was a joy. It was one of the best years of Battlefront. But also, on the flip side, so many people loved the idea of free DLC and wanted to do away with Season Pass, so we got free DLC with Battlefront 2, and ultimately, it kind of helped its downfall. The former producer has also revealed a realistic plan in his mind, based on his wealth of experience and knowledge from working on Battlefront 2, for Battlefront 3. So he said, hear me out, no Battlefront 3 right now, but remaster Battlefront 2 for whatever future console is arriving in 2027 or 2028, which is going to be the PlayStation 6 and the next Xbox. The dev time is going to be around 2 to 3 years to do that. There is a laundry list of improvements that Battlefront 2 could get in my opinion, and getting it updated was always on the team's wish list. Once Battlefront 2 Remastered is a success, then you start work on Battlefront 3. The reason behind this is you'll have a team familiar with the Frostbite engine, the assets, and really could kick off developing a 3 within a much shorter time span and working on feedback from a fresh Battlefront 2 audience base. This would be a 5 to 6 year plan, but it's far more likely to be a success. And that's something I've been saying for quite some time now, is that to make a true Battlefront 3, it will probably take around 5 years if you started today. And right now, there is not a Battlefront 3 in development, so it would sort of take around 5 years to get to that sort of position, which is a shame because they should have started a long time ago, but that's where we see ourselves. I commonly see people wonder if former DICE developers that worked on Battlefront 2 would even return for a new Battlefront game, and we already knew that Mats would, he has said before, but he also went on to say today that, having heard around his group of ex-colleagues that he has seen post DICE, they want to get the gang back together. So there you have it. They would love to come back, but a lot of things need to fall into place for that to happen. It's not just as simple as these people want to make Battlefront 3 because it needs to be greenlit. Mats was asked what was DICE's plan for the game had EA not cut support, and he said, "DICE? I don't know really. We sailed under the radar as Battlefield took all the attention. Internally on the team we knew that time was limited, so we focused on just the next thing. And we knew that a fair bit in advance that the original trilogy was going to be our last push. I've already mentioned this before, they knew around the time of the Rise of Skywalker update. They knew when the Celebration Edition and the Rise of Skywalker trailer came out. So quite a few months before the game actually got shut down. Matt's also said that they pitched some return to the prequels, but it never got greenlit. We already know from his previous comments and Dennis himself that there were prototypes of Mustafar and Ahsoka and Ventress, but again, they were just prototypes. They weren't close and it never got greenlit. The Battlefront team's focus were on different game mechanics and new forms of play towards the end of the game's life cycle. Most of this was being pushed into reinforcements, which we did see, and they're very good. The Battlefront team liked them because most people could actually play them as opposed to heroes. Heroes are fine and fun, but very strict in what they can do and require a lot more work for something that far less people will play. Everyone on the team were huge Clone Wars fans, so take your pick from that, and it was very likely pitched internally. And I know, as someone that has spoken to so many DICE developers on Battlefront for so many years, they are like the biggest Clone Wars fans I have ever seen and come across, and I know a lot of Star Wars fans. They never did anything because they didn't want to do it, it was all about what could they do with the limited resources available. Having actually been to the DICE offices and had conversations, pretty much every idea the fans have had, the developers had before, and attempted something, and did all the research and working things out to see what actually could potentially happen. They truly were the best team for this game, and that's one of the issues with getting a new Battlefront. Will that team that delivers the next Battlefront game be as good as what we had before? It's hard to tell. There's still hope for a future multiplayer Star Wars game, even if it isn't Battlefront 2, even if it isn't Battlefront 3, just given this movement and the amount of people purchasing Battlefront 2, not only just playing the game. Ultimately, that's what matters most. People actually spending money on the game, buying the game, and playing it, because words don't mean anything to a company that's worth tens of billions of dollars. You've got to give them the money to show them there is something actually worth spending money on. I'd love to hear your thoughts on anything I've talked about in this video, so please do let me know down in the comment section below, and remember to drop a like to help support the channel. Subscribe so you don't miss any future Star Wars Battlefront 2 videos, and if you did miss any of my previous videos, click on the playlist on screen right now, and I shall see you in my next video. Goodbye.